Japanese Fairy Tales, retold by Teresa Pierce Williston, illustrated by Sanchi Ogawa. Rand McNally and Company, copyright 1904. The Woodcutter's Sake. The sun was just rising behind the hills. The great pine trees showed each black needle against the rosy clouds of sunrise. The stones along the pathway looked orange in the sunshine and purple in the shadow. The dew-wet breeze blew sweet and fresh over the rice fields. A poor woodcutter was toiling up the mountainside. Every morning, almost before the sun was up, he might be seen climbing to the wooded top of the mountain. No one worked so hard as this poor woodcutter. Yet no matter how hard he worked, there was never enough wood in his pile at night to please him. This morning, as he walked along, he talked to himself. It seems to make no difference how early I start or how late I work at night. I never have enough money to buy the things I wish for my old father and mother. Now at their age, they need tea and sometimes a cup of sake. So he set to work harder than before. It was very warm and he was very tired as well as hungry. Suddenly, close by where he was chopping, he saw a fat young badger fast asleep. Well, thought the woodcutter, here is something I might take home to my father and mother. He would make a fine stew. The more he looked at the sleeping badger, the less he wanted to kill him. If he were awake, it would be different, but to kill him asleep? The woodcutter could not do it. He said to himself, "No, I cannot kill him. I will just work harder and see if I cannot earn money enough to buy them something extra for tomorrow." Just then the badger stood up. He did not run away as you might expect. He stood looking at the man. It almost seemed as though he smiled. The woodcutter stared at him with his mouth open. You do not expect the badger you are just going to kill to stand and smile at you. But this badger spoke, and this is what he said. "Now, Mr. Woodcutter, you did well not to kill me. In the first place, you could not do it. More than that, since you were good to me, I will be good to you. You cannot guess all the things I can do for you, but first, will you just go beyond that pine tree and bring me a smooth, flat stone you find there?" The woodcutter hurried to get the stone. When he reached the place, there lay a rich feast all spread out on dainty dishes. The woodcutter thought of his father and mother. He wished he might take them just a bite of some of these dainties. He would not touch anything that was not his own, however. So he began to look for a smooth, flat stone. "Hee hee!" chuckled someone behind him. He looked around. It was the badger, laughing until his bushy tail shook. "Does it not look good? Why don't you eat some?" "Oh, I did not wish any for myself. I only wished that my poor old father and mother might have such a feast as that for once in their lives." "Never mind. They are eating just such a one this minute." The woodcutter stared. "Why, we have only rice and water in the house," he said. "They are eating just what you see here," said the badger. "Where could they get it?" "I sent it to them. And this is for you and me, so sit down quickly, for I am very hungry." They sat down and ate, now dango or dumpling, now gozen or boiled rice. Then eggplant, sake, cakes, and fruits, until the woodcutter could eat no more. The badger looked like a round, fat dumpling himself, he was so full. Rap-a-tap, 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 rap. Rub-a-dub, 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 rap. It sounded like the music of the drum beating for the soldiers. Fan-ta-ra-ra-ra, fan-ta-ra-ra. This was like the music for the dances. Ru-lo-re-lo, ru-le-o-re-lo. It was the wailing of the sad, sweet shamisen. Where did it all come from? The woodcutter was looking everywhere but the right place. "Where does all this sweet music come from?" he asked the badger. Then he saw. It was the badger drumming and strumming on his skin that was stretched until he looked like a dumpling. With a chuckle, the badger disappeared. The woodcutter looked for him, but saw only a beautiful waterfall. It tumbled in foam over the rocks. What a sweet song it sang! The woodcutter knew that he had never seen it before. He went up to look at it. Sniff! Something smelled very good. He stooped down to drink of the cold, sparkling water. He drank and stared, then drank again. It was sake, as sure as could be. He filled his gourd with it and hastened home. "Father, here is some sake for you," he cried. He told his father all about the badger and the feast. Then his father told him about his feast too. The next morning, when he started to work, you may be sure he did not forget his gourd. He was surprised to see a great crowd of people going up the mountain. Before this, he was the only one who would take that long, hard climb. They all had gourds in their hands, as many as they could carry. Someone had listened at the woodcutter's door the evening before, and heard him tell about the sake waterfall. When they reached the place, one of the men said, "Now, young man, since we happen to know about this place, you need not mind if we help ourselves first. We have to go back down the mountain to our work, so we are in a hurry. First, let us all have a drink together." They all filled their gourds and took a long, deep drink. How they stared! The woodcutter saw that something was wrong, so he slipped away and hid behind a big pine tree. They took one more taste. "Water! That is only water!" all shouted at once. "Just wait until we get that scamp." But they could not find him anywhere. Down the hill they went again. They were angry to think of that long walk for nothing. When they were gone, the woodcutter slipped out and tasted the water again. It was sake, just as before. After that, whenever the poor woodcutter went there for a drink, or to fill the gourd for his father, the water tasted like the richest sake, but for others it was only water.